and welcome to episode 77 of the Gaslec podcast with our fantastic new setup that the team have been working really hard on over the last few weeks. In this week's episode, we're going to be talking about what's the difference with all the plumbers merchants. We have a fantastic Amazon voucher giveaway to celebrate our new podcast studio. And we have a few plumbing items that I'm going to show you on camera and explain what they do. But first of all, here's my friend Sean to tell you a bit more about the podcast. Are you a new person coming into plumbing and heating? Are you a homeowner that likes a bit of DIY? Or are you a business owner and wanted a bit more knowledge before you make some decisions on your plumbing and heating? Stay tuned to the podcast and hopefully we'll be able to help you out with some of your questions. So welcome back, guys, and thank you very much indeed. So we've been working really hard here at Gaslec with a new little setup. We've got, I like to call them the eco plants. So these plants here, they use very, very little water, if you know what I mean, and don't need any sunlight. We've got a few little plumbing fittings up there, and if you're in the industry, you'll know exactly what they are. And we've got a few little bits down the bottom there to showcase and to show off as well. So I hope you like the new little setup. We're still in the teething stage. We're unable to do the history section this week as I haven't got the auto cue machine up and running, and I'm not really into history, so I do rely on reading it out because I can't remember all the obscure names and all the Roman dates, etc., etc. So we're going to do a fantastic giveaway, a 50 quid Amazon voucher in this episode. So listen through the episode and I'm going to give you the phrase that you need to email in at podcast@gaslec.net. So carry on listening and I'll repeat it later on. But first of all, going to the subject of, are all plumbers merchants the same? So here in Kent, certainly within the Medway towns, we've got the big hitters, the big nationals. We've got our City Plumbing, we've got our HPS, we've got our Plumb Base, we've got our Plumb Centre / Wolseley. And that's our sort of our main big hitters here, and we've got accounts with all of those guys. Then you've got your independents. I think there's one called B&P down in Rochester next door to City Plumbing. You've got Drake's, where they've got a few shops. You've got Williams as well, up near Screwfix, up on the Gillingham Business Park there. And these little independents, so Drake's, I think they've got about 8 shops. I think Williams around the same sort of thing, same sort of number. And these are great places where you can actually get some, we have them here. We have some short little buckets, some little round tubs, where the main merchants won't be stocking that as they probably wouldn't sell enough of them to be able to get them at a decent price. But the independents are quite happy to take a bit of stock in and sell them on. I know they do some silly little ones as well, little buckets in Williams, which is always great, and a great bunch of guys in there. I think Williams also do the best coffee as well in Medway in the plumbers merchants. So are all plumbers merchants the same? And ultimately, they're not the same, no. So you get people that are drifting around in the industry. And what you'll find is that as you sort of, for the guys that are coming into the industry or you're already there, is that you'll find someone that you really get along with and you really vibe with. And there may be the manager or the assistant manager or one of the sales staff there at the merchant, and they can understand you and you feel comfortable dealing with them. But the big thing for us is that you're dealing with people and you ask them for a bit of advice or you ask them for that part and they know exactly what you're talking about, and that world experience within the industry, and when they move around, if they do move around branches or they move from business to business, and it's quite incestuous in that way here in the plumbing and heating, it probably is in other industries as well. They can sort of take their clients with them because you've got that know, like, and trust with that person, and you've got that confidence that they say they're going to order that part for you and it'll be there tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. and you turn up and there it is at 7 a.m. and they've made the promise to you, you've made the promise to the client, and it all goes around in lovely little circles. And obviously, from a business point of view, when the merchants get new people into the industry, because there is this bit of a saturation, not saturation, there is this problem where people are leaving the industry when like time served and stuff and retiring, we're not getting that experience coming in. So what they're having to do now is get people that we like to call green and then train them up from the start, which can be quite a timely process. But if they've got a fantastic attitude and a willingness to learn, they can really catch on quickly. There's a couple of people that I can spring to mind. Old Tom, aka Curly, he's gone over to Plum Base over at Lordswood in Chatham. He was someone that I met. He was actually on work experience at Cities in Gillingham. And I met him from there. He actually lives around the corner from me. He was a nice lad. Don't tell him I said that. But he's willing to learn, and he's done really, really well in his career, and he's sort of furthered himself on. And another guy, Steve, who works at Wolseley in Gillingham, or Plum Centre in Gillingham, and he come from B&Q Trade, I think it was, but he's got a fantastic attitude to learning, and he's come along board, and he's if he doesn't know, he's not afraid to admit that he doesn't know, and he's willing to learn the different terminologies that we all use in the industry. So ultimately, are all merchants the same? They may sell the same stuff, but it comes down to the people inside the merchants. And that's where we don't really get it when we're starting to buy stuff online. And certainly when we need something a little bit odd or obscure, a 3/8 washer or, a 5/16 for this or whatever it'll be, something a little bit imperial, a little bit odd, then that's where the experience really does come into it. So I've got a couple of things here I want to discuss with you on the table. So as I said earlier on, we've sort of changed the format a little bit here because I haven't got the auto cue working. So I've got a couple of bits. So obviously it's coming into that time of year, isn't it, for we're turning the heating on. So we're getting quite busy here at Gaslec. We've got a fantastic new team member starting as well on Friday. This is being recorded on Tuesday. We had some technical issues over the weekend to get this recorded. So I'm doing a whole new one. So the humble TRV. So the amount of times we get called out to we've got a radiator in a room that's not working, the rest of the house is working fine. So what that tells me just on that call there is the boiler's working fine, the pump's best part okay, the heat's circulating just to not that one radiator. And typically it'll be a valve. So you do the bleeding, yes, there's water coming out, so all the air's gone out of it, but you've still got that persistent. The first things we'll check is these radiator valves. Now these are thermostatic controlled. As we can see on here, this goes 1 to 5 and goes down to like a frost mode, and this winds down. It's on like a bit of a spring as it comes through. So we put that to the 5, and all we do is just unscrew that nut at the bottom, only by hand. It shouldn't be any tighter than that. And then we take the head off. Then as we take the head off, we're left with a pin on the top. And as we can see from this pin, hopefully you can see on the camera, it's sort of sticking out, probably about 6-7 mil, it sticks out. And what I always do is some valves are slightly different design and they'll stick out a little bit more, a little bit less than others. And what I do is, because it's difficult to push that in because there's a massive heavy spring inside, I just use the top and I'll push it in. Is it moving? So best part, if it's moving, then it's going to be open. I don't think I've come across one where the pin's been up, but the valve's still been closed. I don't think I've come across one of those at all. So radiator drain valves, yes, drain valves are classically unreliable, they are, but these are pretty good. So a couple of things, if that valve is stuck down, then the water won't flow. So what I'll do is I'll touch the valves either side the radiator, and you'll get a bit of a, yeah, it's tepid or it's a creeper heat, just a tiny bit of heat's coming through. And if that's not moving, either get a set of grips and try and give that a little bit of a pull, only a gentle pull, don't pull the thing out because they do come out, or give it an engineering tap with a set of grips or a spanner just on the back edge, then give it a little tap. Because it is a spring and it is spring loaded to come up, what we'll do is if you give that tap and it's stuck, it'll pop up. And once that pops up, then the water will start flowing. Give it 10 seconds, fill the pipes, and whichever way the flow is, you'll start feeling it warm up. And hey presto, you're all done. So it's really important at the end of the winter, you don't just turn them all off and leave them on the down position because they do get stuck. So when we're putting these back on, I always put them to the 5 position, and because that's the easiest way, and then just screw it on. It's only just that tight, really, not a problem there. And then setting the valves. So I'd normally set, so that's the frost protection there. But I'd normally set a sort of a bedroom at around 3. These aren't calibrated at all. So, and with heat loss of rooms and stuff, you sort of have a bit of a play. But as a starting point, I'd have 3 for a like a bedroom, maybe 2 for a room that you're not really using, like a spare bedroom, and then I may have like a 4, 4.5 for a lounge. And if you find it's not getting that warm, I just crack it all the way open and allow that to flow. And you might find you want about maybe a 3-ish for a hallway landing, and maybe 5 for a bathroom. Because you have a bathroom, you have a radiator in it, and everybody throws the towels on the top, and then off we go from there. So that's the classic TRV. So yeah, that just goes with the thing. We just call these tails. So that screws inside the radiator with a little bit of tape on it, and then that then just screws in. So when you get these new, they'll come with a set of tails. So interestingly though, this is a 15 mil compression. So that's got the nut and olive onto the side. Sometimes you see the slightly bigger threads. They're called the 3/4. They're normally on the old lock shields, the older ones. They need like quite a big sort of square Allen key to sort of take them out. But once you take the thread out of the radiator, they're all the same size, this 1/2 inch thread on domestic radiators. So if you are changing them from the older, bigger nut to the smaller one, don't worry, get the system out, get the water out of the radiator and just change the tail. Loctite 55. Go from this end up and then back again, wind it in, good as gold, and you'll be absolutely fine. So what we have here is what we call a combi valve. So if you've got like an unvented hot water cylinder, so what we got on here is just a combination valve. So we've got, this is the pressure reducing. It has got an adjuster on it. So whatever the cold mains is coming in, this will then create an upper limit to the pressure. So this one here, typically it's at 3 bar. I can't quite read it because these lights, but you can tweak it on the side there. If you're adjusting it, you do need a pressure gauge further down. Sometimes they have these on the side on some models, but this one doesn't have one. So you will need a pressure gauge. I'll run through this new bit of kit that we've actually got on the next episode, if I remember. So you can adjust it onto there, but that's typically our 3 bar regulator that'll come through. And then that's the water out on this side. And they typically got an arrow on the side. Now, this part here is the safety relief. So if this fails and the pressure massively increases, so on new builds, on where you've got brand new water mains, you might find that the water system coming in could be maybe 10 bar, which is too high for domestic properties and plumbing. So this one here is actually set to 6. So this will, if that fails at 3, that will pop and release the water out at 6 bar. So what we have here is interesting actually. So this is what we call a balanced cold outlet. So when the water comes through to here, this is then coming off to your hot water cylinder. And then we can have this as a cold water outlet and creates a balanced cold. So both pressures, both outlets will be exactly the same. When you come off here and it's limited to 3 bar, and then if you tee off for your hot water cylinder, you tee off here for something else, like say the bath tap. If you tee it before this, if this goes up to 4 bar and that's sitting at 3 bar, what'll happen is if you're at the mixer tap and you open both up so they're equal blended, the cold water at 4 bar will go into the tap because it's quite a high pressure, can't come out, and then start pushing back on the hot and start forcing the back pressure and water backwards through the cylinder and starts pushing hot water back to here. Now, it's difficult to see, but just inside there is actually a non-return valve that'll actually stop that. But what the inconvenience will be is when you have your hot tap running, you start bringing a bit of cold in, the hot seems to vanish and stop completely. And that's because you've got an inconsistency within the pressures and they're fighting against each other. So just be mindful of that. And this part here, this little blank, we can take that off, put a 3/4 adapter into there and take that off for an expansion vessel. And we can take this off from the cold side. And it's really important that we do it after the non-return valve and not before. So any expansion within the hot water system will then just be teed off of here, and it could come straight in onto that. So we come across these quite a lot, and these are normally specified by the manufacturers for like unvented hot water. So this is a safety release valve or PRV, pressure release valve. And this one here, made by Reliance, is actually 8 bar. And a little tip for these little fellas is that it's got an arrow on them. So I've been called out to quite a few of these over the years where we get a call for, we've got no hot water. So the first thing we ask is, do you have no hot water, or do you have no water coming out the hot tap? And that's a really, really important question, guys. Certainly if you're just coming into the industry as well. Is try and get as much information from the client as possible before you turn out. And certainly if they've got an unvented cylinder, they always check. And if there's no water coming out, always check these. Now these have a non-return valve on the inside. I don't know if you can see that on the camera there coming through. And these actually are quite bloody unreliable, be honest. So these little fellas here, they're not that expensive, but they do ping out. And yeah, I've been on commercial settings before where we've had these, and I've had to do some bits and pieces to get their water up and running temporarily. But with water regulations, there's a non-return valve in there for a reason. So if you are fitting one, just make sure you get it the right way round. There's got an arrow on both sides on this one here. So the giveaway phrase that pays for this is going to be version 4. Doesn't matter how you spell it. I'm dyslexic. I have problems spelling, so it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Version number 4, version with a 4, FOUR, version FOR. Doesn't matter how you want to spell it. Because this is version 4 of the podcast. So we started off audio only on my desk in my office, and then we had the camera on my desk. With the backdrop of the stairs and the railings, and then we had the other little podcast setup, which was just on the other side of the room there. And now we've got this here, which we're classically calling version 4. So email version 4 to podcast@gaslec.net, and you'll be entered into the draw for a 50 quid Amazon voucher. Today's date and recording this is Tuesday the 21st, so it'll run till next Tuesday the 28th. So get the emails in and you'll be in it to win it. And thank you very much indeed, guys. So I just want to go into the last little segment here of the podcast, which is we've been seeing quite a lot on the local news about people taking their own lives at the moment. I've done a podcast on male mental health and suicide rates before. And I just think that I just want to get across again, guys. Certainly, as we're coming into the winter period, it gets really busy. We're growing here at Gaslec. As I said earlier on, we've got another team member starting this week. So I've got lots to do with the podcast and setting up the units and getting vans ready and all those bits, the bits that the admin team, Kelly and Anne in the office, they can't quite do themselves. They need my input on it. And what's really, really important that is, I love, my kids are grown up now, but I really do love my downtime. And I think it's really, really important. So last weekend I was diving with the dive club up in Leicester, Stony Cove, doing some bits there, messing about all weekend and meeting some fantastic and interesting people. And then a couple of weeks ago, I was off-road motorbiking, and then I was doing a bit of surfing the other week. You can follow all these little bits on my Facebook page as well. But I think it's really important to have those outside of work interests. And for me, I love stuff that's outdoors, really. So in a bit of nature, a bit of fresh air. It doesn't matter if I'm getting wet. It doesn't matter if I'm getting muddy or blown away. It doesn't really matter. If it's nice and windy, I'll see if I can find a kite and get that out. But what's really important that is that you do have that downtime from it, because it can get really, really consuming. And like now, I'm recording this podcast at 7:30 on a Tuesday evening. And be honest, I could go next door and go and do a load more emails and work bits and pieces. But I just have to say, I've got to stop. I've got to do these bits. Ultimately, my work would never end. I could go on and do this and do this and do this, but we just have to just push stop. And certainly if you've got a young family as well. I was talking to a good pal of mine who runs a plumbing and heating company as well. and he's been going through some little bits of trouble. I won't tell you who he is, and he's a fan of the podcast. But I do like to try and link in with him and just touch base and just say hello, how you doing? Because I understand the pressures of all of this. I understand being a husband and a father as well, and how difficult the whole balance is. But it's really, really important, guys, that you don't let it get too much on top of you. And now I believe a little bit of pressure is good, but we just need to make sure we manage it. We don't want that stress onto ourselves and start affecting us. So there's plenty of charities out there that are set up to help you guys if you are struggling. I don't have any to hand. I haven't made any notes, unfortunately. Bit of a spontaneous bit, this bit, but yeah, always reach out. Always speak to your pals that you can trust, and any family members you can trust in as well. And you may be surprised, actually, if you do reach out, how many people are actually sort of been struggling or are struggling themselves. And a problem shared is a problem halved. So don't keep it amongst us as us guys do. Well, that completes this week's episode of the podcast, and thank you very much indeed. Any of your thoughts and feedback on the new decor, our eco plants, our little bits and pieces here? Yeah, but it took me ages to make this desk out of bits of MDF, and we got Ashley to help me paint it the other week as well, and then getting all these new lights set up. I don't think these lights are quite where we want them on the colour spectrum, but yeah, just comment below on what you think of the new setup. If there's any improvements we can make, that'd be great. I'm lining up a phenomenal person to be a guest onto the podcast as well. Old young Lee Mumbles, he knows who he is. So hopefully we'll have him sitting here soon, telling us all that what he does within the industry as well. Anyway, guys, you take care, and I'll see you soon. All the best. Have a great week. Goodbye.